That's the part that I don't like. It's not what they did and how they did it, but to add insult to injury, their reasoning was we feared that, if we didn't tell him while he was on air or while he was here, that it would leak. The news would leak and he would hear it from somewhere else, and we care so much about him that we didn't want him to hear it from a leak. Yeah.
All right, it's been a lot of talk about Ryan Clark getting fired from ESPN. Everybody's been speaking on this, from Stephen A. Smith to all of the sports commentators. Well, let's see what the Joe Budden podcast had to say about this. You better like the video. You better subscribe. Let's get it.
As the time we sit here, Cam Newton was just let go too.
Really?
Shut up.
Yep. Literally as we sitting here, yep.
Yeah, they said widespread layoffs. Yeah. They said it.
That usually
Any
means
white names?
I was say that usually means the blacks.
That's what it means.
Well, Pat McAfee, if you care, is about to get an extension to make $60 million a year.
They got to get that money from somewhere.
You know how much $60 million is?
Why does Disney have to get that money from somewhere?
Yeah, word.
Even though that's what they're doing. But why does Disney have to do that?
Because they'll have a cap on, we paying out of this pool right here.
Oh,
they got all the money.
You said if you have an exorbitant amount of money, you shouldn't be held to the same standard.
I'm saying that Disney don't need to
They don't
fire
have to go
people
look for no money.
Yeah.
to put money in other people's pockets.
I'm with you, but
Like,
you know-
nobody got fired up here when you got that money.
Yo.
Moving right along. Moving right along.
Come on down the hall, Joseph.
Anywho,
Yeah,
there you go.
So Ryan Clark was fired, and I think, first of all, shout out to Ryan Clark. I love that brother, and I think he's an incredible.
Me too. Probably one of the better dressed people on ESPN. Not that matters, but I always love whoever does our Ryan Clark suits on TV. Period.
And
he got his own little emblem, the little RC emblem that he wears. He brought some style and some flavor and some fucking oomph up there.
And he's smart. He's insightful. He's thoughtful. He's honest. He knows his shit. He's experienced. He's got all the things. He checks all the boxes.
He does.
And it's crazy that they didn't just fire him, or lay him off, but they also laid him off in the middle of a show.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's the crazy part.
Yeah, that's just
horrible.
Yeah.
On a break.
It's disrespectful.
That was horrible. That was
They
disgusting.
didn't even let him finish the show, and yet they took his comments, his content, his clips, and kept airing them all day on ESPN.
Wow. They said he voluntarily didn't finish, from what I heard, but I don't give a fuck if you allowed me to come to work today.
Yeah.
Wait. What do you mean he voluntarily?
They said they told him in the middle of one of the shows when he was taping.
So then he didn't
he just left.
involuntarily not finish.
But they saying like, did they give him the option? Like, hey, you can finish the show after this show is over?
I didn't hear that, but either way, it's fucked
But either
up.
way, I
It's
don't give a
still
fuck.
fucked
Whatever the case may be, yo, dog, if you fire me in the middle of my work day, it's disrespectful.
Don't fire me doing prospects. You know what I mean? Say, well, Mark, you can stay the friend of the show.
And
I meant to ask y'all, is that like, what is firing etiquette? Like,
typically, in corporate, a lot of times in corporate, they let you finish your work day.
Yeah.
And then we'll call you to HR about
at the end of your work day?
About 3. And when you go to HR, when you go this way, a nigga's coming this way, they gonna pack you a cardboard box. They gonna put all your shit from your desk and all your personal shit in that box because they don't want you to come back to your computer.
I got that. What I'm asking is if you were in corporate world, would you prefer a text, an email, a phone call, or come in and have your business partner tell you that face to face, or the company tell you face to face?
It depends on my relationship with them. If I'm cool with them, then I would expect my
Face-to-face.
superior boss to call me. If I'm not cool with them, then I just treat it like we not cool. You could text me, you could email me, you could smoke signal me. I don't give a fuck.
If we not cool, I would rather you.
But don't fire
save
me.
me. If we not cool, let me stay home.
Yeah.
Don't let me drive, because that happened to me before. I was working about 45 minutes away from the crib. I got to the job, got in, walked in. They was like, they want to see you in the office first.
This was the security job?
No. This was an insurance job. I know. Mark is a
What?
dick.
Ask a question.
Mark is a dick.
He
Mark
tried
is a
to be
dick. I know he
serious when he
tried.
do it,
He
though.
tried. But they was like, they want to see you in the office. Got in the office, and they was like, we let
You
you
knew what it
know.
was, or you just thought you was getting a raise or some shit?
I didn't know what it was.
Oh, that's the
I didn't know what
worst.
it was. But I was like, yo, word? Like, I'm saying, y'all could have told me this at home, because now I'm mad.
Yeah.
Y'all could have told me this at home. I was like, well, let me go get my stuff. No, we got somebody that's going to get your stuff. They'll meet you at the front door and walk out that way.
You can't get back to your computer.
Please leave your key card here, all of that shit. Yeah, they don't want you taking nothing. They got to surprise you to do it.
In TV, they usually don't give you a chance to have access to the audience again once they let you know.
Oh, yeah, because you might go off.
That's why I was surprised to hear. I'm not sure that they would have let him during the break, go back on air. Because if you say to a nigga, especially somebody like Ryan Clark, who's articulate and thoughtful and smart and principled and courageous, if you say to him, look, we letting you go, but you got 10 more minutes on air. I don't know what the fuck you gonna say.
And you can spin that. You can spin that. You could go on air and spin that and quit.
Yeah, and it's live.
And now to the public, you quit.
Yeah.
Like, yo, this XYZ what's happening. You could spin that in your favor and
No,
save
you should
face.
never say that you quit because now you're not getting your money.
Yeah. Which is the other piece of it.
That's true.
And that's another piece of this, right? They still got to pay him out his contract.
He's paying. Yeah, he's getting paid out.
So if they're paying you, so if this is about budget, you could let him ride out the contract.
Oh, yeah.
Which is often what happens. Yeah. Because if you're,
and then they just don't renew it.
they just don't renew it. Because there are jobs where obviously we don't want to go to work if we're gonna get paid anyway. But TV people want to stay on air. They want to be seen because that's the job, and that's how you get the next job, and that's how you. So it's not like. I mean, a lot of people are told their contract won't be renewed at the end of the season, and they keep going. So this feels like it's bigger than just money.
That's a good point.
This feels like there's something about Ryan Clark that they're not fucking with. And what I don't like is that I'm starting to see all
something about Michael Smith, something about Jamel Hill,
Exactly.
something about Kerry Champion, something about there's a few things. There's a few things about.
I'm noticing a pattern here, right? And it's two things, right? and that's the thing. So when I see
versus the people that are getting the money, i.e., Pat and Stephen A.
Right, exactly.
Because that's the end of the list.
That's the end of the list. Pat McAfee literally makes more than everybody in the NBA except Steph Curry as of this new deal.
And I think Pat McAfee's underpaid.
Oh, he's extraordinary. I ain't taking nothing from him.
I think $60 million for him is a deal and a bargain.
In fairness, it's him and his whole shit. It's not just
it's an infrastructure.
For 5 days a week, and it's the premier show over there. It's our Sports Center block. You got to pay the man.
I ain't mad at that. But to your point, you could also. I think Ryan Clark was making $2 million there.
Yeah,
y'all could have made that work.
There's a report that said between 2 and 6, and they said Cam was closer to 2. With the Pat McAfee thing, Pat McAfee drives inventory. It's almost like he's in sales. You know what I'm saying? Like if you in sales, yo, the sky's the limit to your earnings. Whereas other people that are like, just they don't necessarily push the ad dollars and all that other shit.
Yeah,
you're not valued nowhere near as high. You know what I'm saying? And so to your Pat McAfee point, that nigga's out here 5 days a week pushing the shit out them numbers for ESPN. So that nigga's worth way more money than most of the other people.
I agree. I don't want Pat McAfee to lose a dollar. Me is just talking about what their resources are, and also the kind of people who they're willing to invest in.
True.
Because there's the race thing. A whole bunch of black folk getting fired, but some white folk getting fired too. But it's also the kind of voices that they don't want to have on that network. The kind of voices that they always seem to silence and push out. And that's the thing I don't like. And I don't like the leaking of reasons.
That's the part that I don't like. It's not what they did and how they did it, but to add insult to injury, their reasoning was we feared that, if we didn't tell him while he was on air or while he was here, that it would leak. The news would leak and he would hear it from somewhere else, and we care so much about him that we didn't want him to hear it from a leak.
That's bullshit.
You're Disney, dog. You're Disney, dog.
No,
Stop
not just that. It's bullshit. If that's the case, then you called him the night prior to. If you're his boss, you call him. This is cell phone error. My nigga, his supervisor or his direct upline could have called him on the phone and gave him the news. You don't have to have him come into work so that you could tell him like that.
This is I mean, this is so out of bounds with what happens in media. Media jobs don't work this way. They just don't. And you're starting to see the insiders say, well, it was the way he talked to my man last year.
Schrager.
Yeah, when he said you didn't play. You didn't play in the NFL.
That's bullshit.
It's complete bullshit.
That's bullshit.
But please, and what they do is they put it as a speculation, so that becomes the dominant narrative. So people think that's why he got. That ain't why he got fired. That happened a year ago.
No.
Number one, and number two,
I don't know that that's complete bullshit, but I don't think that's all the reason.
Not a fire. That's
Like,
not a
he could have
fireable
been
offense.
You don't know who when you in these corporate, but you don't know who in the boys club and who ain't.
Right, and he was in the boys club, and they were trying to get him a show. And so I'm sure that didn't win him any friends in corporate. I'm not saying that, but
I have it if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
wide receiver who got one target all night, and then you got CeeDee Lamb.
But when was the one target?
That's the target. But I'm saying,
when was the one target?
I'm saying you could have it both ways.
54 seconds left in the game on 2nd and 11. It was the one target. He runs the out.
You wake up this
the
morning
corners
saying
got
AJ Brown had a better day than CeeDee Lamb.
But you know what you wake up saying though? AJ Brown's team is 1-0.
Of course.
Right, like that's what
I get it.
But the thing is this though, and we shouldn't do this on TV. And so I apologize if people think this is rude. That's the non-player.
Oh, stop. CeeDee Lamb is.
And let me tell you why. I'm not saying.
I'm not looking at fantasy football, Ryan. I'm not. Don't belittle me like that. I could come in and say, as 3 ex-players are saying one thing, and give an alternative perspective that maybe CeeDee Lamb did play well. And
Peter, I ain't gonna hold you in commentator land on that ESPN morning desk.
Yeah.
That'd be a hot button issue anytime it come up.
Yeah.
Non-player versus player.
But it's kind of the third rail. Like you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. And Brian knows that because he started with, hey, this is going to come off the wrong way, but shut the fuck up. You never played the game. Which I remember this morning because I remember that game. It was such a big game. CeeDee Lamb went off.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb went off. A.J. Brown, not so much. So the point that he was arguing was, hey, CeeDee Lamb went the fuck off in a loss, but boy, he looked good. I was agreeing. I ain't never played football. But Ryan Clark, my thing with this whole thing is, boy, thank God for independent black media.
Yeah.
He's killed it.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he is.
Corporate did what corporate does. Who's shocked?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's shocked by that? Certainly no.
Some things will shock you.
This shouldn't be shocking. This shouldn't be
With
shocking.
their track record, he's on a tear, bro. I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought he would have been an asset that they wanted to hold on to.
Man, if they can't control you.
No.
Let me tell you something. I worked at Fox News 2 decades ago, and I remember when Glenn Beck was the biggest thing going. I mean, Glenn Beck was beating Bill O'Reilly. He was beating Sean Hannity. I mean, at 5 o'clock, he was cooking everybody, but they couldn't control him. And they got rid, and everybody was shocked, right? I was surprised too, but then when you realize that their money is so big, and their desire to control is so strong, they'll sacrifice their number 1 earner or their number 2 earner for the bigger picture. And what they do, they got rid of Glenn Beck and they created a show called The Five that did basically exactly what they wanted them to do and got almost the same ratings. Same thing. Ryan Clark is a top tier commentator to me. To me, if I'm building a network for sports, he's at the top of my list. But they want Negroes they can control. And they want people they can silence. And they want people who don't have a backbone. And so, unfortunately, he didn't make the list. But I'm just not surprised. I haven't seen this so many times. Like you said, I'm glad he has his own platform.
Thank God he has his own. Word. Thank God Cam has his own. Thank God that content creators are out there not relying on the fucking old infrastructure. Hell yeah. So we don't have to cry over these stories every time we hear.
Shout out to Stephen A. Smith for tweeting support for Ryan Clark, because a lot of time that doesn't happen. When you get fired from a spot, the people that still work there don't say shit. And oftentimes those influential and powerful people really don't say shit. But Stephen A. actually tweeted and said, I understand layoffs, I understand business is business, but like, Ryan Clark, this is fucked up. He didn't say those exact words, but that was the sentiment.
You can't stop this shit, man. What do you think Stephen A. is going to say on this show? Because I saw you retweet it, and that's a good tweet that he sent out.
I'm just saying, because I didn't think he would say nothing.
What is he about to say of impact?
I'm just happy he did that even. Honestly, and maybe my bar is in hell. Maybe my bar is just super low. But I just remember even when I got fired from CNN,
nobody did it.
I got all the private text. On text, shit was jumping.
Mad support.
Then it was like, can y'all say something? Like, yeah, let's not do that.
I want to be next. Nigga.
I'm saying something to you.
Exactly. Well, because Angela Rao was like, "Oh, we going in the office. We about to go. We about to have a sit." No, Angela was about it. She was like, "We about to go in." My man's, I can't think of his name right now, the head of CNN, we're going to go in his office right now, all the black commentators, and have a sit-in. We're going to talk, blah, 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 blah. And then some other people, I don't want to say Van Jones' name and others because I don't want to, implicate them, but they was like, no, let's not do that. Let's not make the bosses mad. Let's talk about it off air. And so that's the more common response. You know what I'm saying? So to see somebody even publicly say it, I think is a shot. I appreciate that. Again, my bar is low maybe, but I thought it was dope.
No, you make a good point. You make a good point. Even if that's the extent of what he does, it's nice that he did it.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna play with Steve like that. Steve, it's just tricky for me. Steve always reps for some of the black people at ESPN. But is that like an oxymoron? Rep for the black people at ESPN.
I get it.
Because what does that look like? And what is that? Shannon Sharp, fucking. There's a list of black people. I'm not going through the list again.
Right.
Anyway, love you, Ryan Clark.
Word.
Before I say this, I want to say I'm open to being wrong, and anybody in the comments, if you want to come and say, never gave up, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't watch enough ESPN, that's cool. My version of ESPN that I was watching was First Take with Carrie. I even liked it when Molly came on, and it was Skip and Stephen A. That's my version of First Take, and that's the ESPN I would watch. I like the Get Up show. I like the guy who hosts Get Up. I forget his name. But Stephen A kept me coming to First Take at that time. And then you start bringing in more black commentators. So over the years, the only thing that kept me watching was hearing these voices like Jay Will, hearing these voices like Shannon Sharp. And I get it. Some of y'all might say Shannon Sharp got fired for a reason. That's fine. Cam Newton is cool. Some of these other ex-athletes that I've seen just come on the show throughout the years, throughout the season and playoffs and stuff like that. That's what's kind of keeping me at ESPN. Big Perk. But you start firing these people. I thought firing Shannon was a mistake. To me, First Take got revitalized when it was Shannon and Stephen A. So now you firing all of these black commentators. I don't hear a lot of voices in the room, or it's looking like I'm not going to hear a lot of these voices in the room that I want to hear from. And it feels like ESPN is trying to alienate their black sports audience. I get this McAfee guy's big, but if I had to, assume most of his audience is probably white. And so I feel like, does ESPN only want black people to watch ESPN if they're watching Stephen A. Smith? And like I said, I'm sure a lot of black people watch McAfee, and a lot of black people watch some of these shows with some of these white anchors, and that's cool too. But like I said, some of the people who brought the energy to me was a lot of the black commentators. Like right now, Kendrick Perkins is bringing a lot to ESPN. He's kind of keeping me there. When Jay Will is on, he keeps me there. I like Mad Dog, the older guy who goes on there. But right now, I'm watching ESPN through clips as it is. I'm not even getting up and watching the show. I'm not subscribing to ESPN. I'm watching on YouTube. And I think a lot of people watching on YouTube where it's a clip about the athlete that you like, the athlete that you're interested in, the sport that you're interested in. I don't even think a lot of people are just watching these shows and like, we gonna sit there and we gonna go through MLB, NFL, the golf tournament, what they talking about in hockey. I even got a hot take, and I feel like the WNBA might be bigger if they talk more about the WNBA during these shows. And start to just tell us what's going on. Cause recently I'm like, what's going on with Caitlin Clark? But I don't watch enough of the WNBA to tell y'all, but it's a whole bunch of shit they just don't talk about, because everything is based on ratings, and we only gonna talk about the stuff that is gonna drive ratings. So every show gotta have some segment where they talk about LeBron versus Jordan. Regardless, my main point is, why is ESPN getting rid of the black commentators who seem to be very entertaining, very opinionated? I guess it was a lot of talk about control in this segment, and I guess ESPN is saying we can't control these people, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case either. I think you can't control Ryan Clark if you paying him $2 million. No. Now, if you up some of that pay, maybe you can kind of, tighten the rope, as they say. But no, paying ex-athletes $2 and $3 million, no, you definitely can't control them. And you see with somebody like Stephen A. Smith, the pay is always different. The McAfee guy, the pay is always different. See, when you start going up to 10, 20 million dollars, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 million, of course you can control them people. But I think I said it during this segment. He said it's a pool that Disney wants to pay out of, and they probably got a certain amount of money that they want to, use for ESPN. I think most of their money at Disney, they wanted to go into movies and Marvel and, all of the big budgets for these movies, which, it could be $100 million, $250 million for a movie. And so who knows what the budget is for ESPN, but I would assume their budget for ESPN is probably about the amount they would spend on one movie. And so maybe that's why a lot of these guys can't get paid like that. But I think that's where the control is. Nah, you can't tell me what to say when you giving me pennies, when you giving me vet minimum pay. So, that's something to think about as well. But I also like when Joe brought up the fact that a lot of these guys have their own platforms now. And so it's not a tearjerker every time one of them get fired, right? Cam Newton is doing big things with his YouTube show. Same thing with Ryan Clark, him and his co-host with his show. I forget his co-host name, dude with the braids. But yeah, they do big things. But to me, every time I see another one of these guys get fired from ESPN, I'm like, to me, ESPN is going down. But if you a part of this white sports audience that I feel like they're trying to cultivate or please or make happy or put them at the front of the line, put them at the front of the bus, then for you, ESPN is on the up and up. Oh, they're getting rid of some of them blacks. so it's a Christian sports network. They doing the Lord's work. Get them out of here. Get the dark ones out of there. Stephen A can stay. He a light skin. Jay Will might be able to stay. He light skin. Kendrick, watch out. Let me know what y'all think about this. Like the video and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.